Hello there, I'm Sam Hughes.
And I'm Toivo Kallio.
And together we are...
Double Dragon.
No, I'm kidding.
Nonsensical Revelations.
So, yes, this is an unknown pilot of an unknown podcast because we are basically, for context, two sound designers and voice actors, as in I'm a sound designer and voice actor, and so is Toivo. And we're based in Finland, and we have a lot of random conversations that we thought might actually be entertaining for other people to also hear. So we just figured we'd hit record and have a chat, really.
Exactly.
Didn't really go much beyond that.
I would just say casual.
I mean, I'm aiming for smart.
Yeah, you can aim, but then of course,
And basically, the
there are
equivalent
variables
of the
on
smart
the way.
casual dress sense of having a suit jacket over my t-shirt and jeans.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
pretty much it.
And it's so lame. It's an audio format. You people can't see how dashing we look.
I know, we
with
could be in our underwear for all they know. We're not, by the way.
You don't know what I'm gonna foley into our movements, like these really squishy skin sounds in the late post.
And just to say this ahead of time, one of my favorite things about mine and Toivo's conversations, which I'm hoping people get a dig out of, is that we don't have any plan ever. And we are basically like two excitable puppies that meet up and just go at each other. We're like, oh, it's you. How are you? How are you? And this thing and that thing and this thing. And then we go on so many different tangents and random things. Then I come home slightly more confused than I was before, and also like more enlightened at the same time.
But it's good confused. It's like a happy confused.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like I open the front door. There's raining, of course, every time. Dramatic rain and then thunder. What the hell just happened?
It's like the beginning of a video game where they always have amnesia. Like they just, for some reason, they always go, "Where am I? What happened?"
Along the way, he gets flashbacks of nonsense.
And ever since BioShock, which I love BioShock, by the way, but ever since BioShock, it's almost a spoiler now that they've lost their memory. And I'm like, whatever it is, it was you.
Exactly. It becomes a trend. It becomes boring. I know,
Whatever
right?
unfolds, whatever thing is happening, you're at the center of it and you're a problem.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, speaking of the past, because we are, you were born in 88, was it?
I was indeed.
Yes.
Year of the
My
Dragon.
memory. Oh my God, yeah.
the coolest
88.
Chinese.
The first Die Hard movie was released in 88. That one I remember. Yeah.
Yes. Die Hard 1, a Christmas movie for all.
Yeah. As I said in our interview episode, which feels like an eternity ago.
Yes, which for
Wasn't that long
context
ago.
was an interview on my other podcast,
Yes.
The Sound Architect, which Toivo
Exactly.
actually helps edit and master.
Aw.
But we invited him on the
With
show,
pleasure.
of course, just to make full paradoxes occur.
Yes, exactly. I'm again gonna edit this shit.
Exactly. Loves the sound of his own voice, this guy.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta be. Let me dig up my Nicholson. You gotta be a little narcissist sometimes.
Want this to go through the normal. Let's brighten it up for the kids, you know.
I was just gonna ask you, what do you remember to be your very first experience of video games? How did it all begin?
My earliest memory of video games. That's an interesting question. So I really have quite a specific memory of my childhood from that kind of era. It was an era that I had childhood.
51.
My childhood was an era. But
it was a
basically,
time of innocence.
yes, it was all a mistake. That's why it was an error. So it was basically, I remember my dad had this old console called a Spectrum ZX Sinclair.
Jeez.
And it played video games on tapes, young people. Just have video games on tape cassettes.
C cassettes, even. C cassettes.
And, things like, there was actually a stop motion TV show called Trapdoor. I don't know if you're aware of it, but you would have loved it. And there were like these weird creatures that lived in this kind of like cave, I guess, or castle. It was a castle, I think. And there was a trapdoor, but there were these weird different monsters. One was just called Bert, who was the caretaker. And he was this big fat blue guy who was just always moaning. And anyway, that's all I remember of that show. And there was a video game of it, and it was ridiculously hard. And you could switch between the characters, and you could be Bert, who could walk around. You could be the yellow thing, which could bounce around.
Different traits.
But
characters,
I never got beyond the beginning because I was like 4.
Was it like one of those where there's one screen and there's like several planes that you can move around in, or how was the
It was more
presentation?
like you had like a room, like a square.
per room.
So the screen was a room, and you could do something in that room, or you could go in the next room, and then it would be like very much Zelda dungeon crawler type.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Some of the whole
very
screen
first
and
ones,
like. But that was around the kind of time that we had the NES and the Master System going on.
Sure.
So the kind of proper memories, I guess, were things like the Turtles games. They were pretty good. Obviously, Super Mario.
So your age must have been
childhood.
like something like 4, 3.5.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 when the NES was around, I think.
Yeah. I think 4 and 5 is something that, because as a quick side story, like my very first kind of memories about pop culture in general, they are from around 4 and 5.
I think it's difficult to have memories from before, like
exactly.
4 years
It's
old.
Something very vague and like abstract before that, but. Like you started with games really, really early because from my life, years 1 to 6, we didn't even have a proper television. My parents never had like tons of money, and we could have been considered to be poor at some point before my mom got a proper job in like early 90s. But before that, it was really like. We were kind of poor, and I vividly still remember our first television, which was black and white. One, and secondly, it had this the classic kind of fault that the picture was starting to rotate from top to bottom or the other way around, and you could fix it by banging your hand against it as hard as you could, and it would just keep functioning.
And you remember
barely.
having to mess about with aerials? Jesus, that was such a pain.
Oh yeah, picture quality was so
you had
shite.
to just move. They had this giant
Exactly.
But you made me smile because my first ever TV that I had in my room was when I was 13, 14.
Oh, that's a big step.
And that was the old black and white one. And I remember playing my SNES on this old black and white TV.
Wow.
And struggling because I needed colors really to figure out where to go or what to do. So it was a bit of a nightmare playing SNES in black and white, but I did what I had to, Like, and I relate because both my parents come from like a working class background, and like everything was secondhand basically. And it reminds me of when I first learned how things cost things, right? When I got my PS1 for Christmas 1 year from my dad. And my dad was kind of like...
What's capitalism?
Well, this is when the question was, Dad, where's my N64? And he went, oh, well, I sold it to get the PS1.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, I mean, I get it. I mean, I didn't know that was the deal, but
heartbreak. Yeah.
Because I was
God.
like, no, but what? All the games as well? No, I just finished Mario World 64. No, Mario 64.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking of all, and I can be a little bit materialistic when it comes to games, but especially with save files. So in my head, I was like, but I got everything on that one.
Save files were life.
I have to do that again if I ever get it back.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
I still have my PS1 memory card of Resident Evil 4 backed up.
Oh, wow.
And physical, because as soon as they brought out the PS3 adapter, I was there. Because there was a USB to PS1 memory card adapter, and I backed up all of my saves.
Right, wise choice. Yeah. My first touch on video games was Super NES, really. I think it was Super NES
One
before.
of my favorite consoles, the Super NES.
I know.
Well, SNES, as we called it.
Yeah. And we lived in such a small town, or even a village, it can be called. Like it was a really selective what the gaming scene in that village was, because the age group wasn't big. So there basically were only like PC and Nintendo guys. I don't remember knowing anyone who had Sega, even though it was quite successful.
It was generally the Master System, if they had one.
Exactly, yeah.
Because they kind of went in stages, right? Because the NES and the Master System were there.
Yeah.
And then there was the SNES and then the Mega Drive. They were the competitors, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it was PS1, Saturn, and
64.
GameCube. 64. And then GameCube later. Yeah. So 64, Saturn,
and then mishmash of failed console in between Atari Jaguar.
The Jaguar,
3DO.
There was a couple of others. There was a Swan one, Wonder Swan at some point.
Never heard.
I think that was much later, actually. I think that was like almost like a Neo Geo type thing.
Oh yeah, Neo Geo, the super expensive console.
Like,
it was
that
a
was
weird
super
time
cool.
when the transition kind of PS1 was Sony's departure from Nintendo collaboration, right? They were meant to do their...
Yes, there's like this rare Sony Super Nintendo out there.
That's true.
That
kind of a
was like
semi-prototype.
Yeah,
or like
it's
one
almost
of the
like
few.
when Philips were going to do some GameCube thing or
Yeah,
something. There was going to
exactly.
be like a hi-fi device as well as a games console.
Philips CDI, it was called, I think. There was that's a funny anecdote. This is going to be such a nostalgia half of the show, but I'll still go on.
I'm all here for it. I'm down for it.
It's fun because we've lived, let's say, in general,
we've lived
so hard.
so long and so hard.
Yes.
We say
Hard geeking out.
had a rough paper round, we say in English, if someone looks older than they are.
Right. Yeah. Well,
rough
in
paper round.
some cases, like I have some gray bits in my beard already. It's,
I have many
it's in the
grey
genes.
hairs
Yeah.
on my head and face.
Yeah.
Also, my beard, I don't know about you, but my beard is growing up my face now. Like, I thought it was going to stop roughly around the mid of the cheeks. I think I'm just turning into a werewolf slowly, basically. I think it's just the longest transition.
Toivo, you're not going to like this, but tonight I'm going to kill everyone in this room.
I will kill all of you!
It's just you then, isn't it, really?
So the damage will be
That's
minimal.
like a passive-aggressive werewolf. I'm going to kill everyone in this room.
Yeah.
Not naming names,
I'm so
though.
horrible, yeah.
Just going to indirectly threaten you.
Yeah. So in the Finnish television, there was this gaming show in the mid-90s, super popular in our elementary school at least, but it was called Game Over. And the whole point was, I don't know if you had this thing in Britain at some point, but there was this trend of TV shows where people could remotely play video games that were shown in the TV show via their keypad phones. Basically.
Wow.
It was a weird time, really, because it was a couple of really successful programs in Finland that worked like that. People would call. I guess it's
you mean
about
with
the
the house
size of the
phone?
country.
So how did you play?
So basically, it was every game they played was like simplified. It was all about like having like 4 different buttons you needed, like up, down, left, right. It was a games where you would jump at the right time and dodge obstacles and stuff. And one of these shows was called Game Over, and it was all about the Philips CDI, and it's super crappy and weird games. And the game was something that happened in the Wild West. It was like a light gun game in the first place, dash mouse click shoot game.
Right.
But imagine people trying to play that on their like 4-direction keypad,
Breaking
remotely.
their telephones and parents going crazy. Like, what are you doing with the phone?
Exactly. It was also because the button presses were audible through the voice line, and whenever there's like an enemy hopping into the screen, that was like.
Ropi mennä. Nyt käänny ja jarruta jo. Nyt meni pahasti ohi eka portti. No niin siitä välistä, yritä mennä välistä. Käänny vielä vähän. Kato nyt sä menet läpi vaan. Ei kun yritä käännellä, jarruttele vaan ja kääntele. No just nyt alkaa vähän. Ei, nyt sä menet väärään suuntaan. Sininen siitä
There was a
punainen.
lot of weird attempts at interactivity back in the 90s.
Of course, yeah.
And 2000s. Like, I remember we had a couple
Failed
of TV
concepts.
shows where they had the early VR stuff going on. There was a
sure.
TV show called Nightmare. I don't know if it was ever aired here, but it
don't
was
think
like
so,
a
no.
game show for teenagers.
Right.
And they would do other different tasks. It was very much like Crystal Maze and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But centered around this like sci-fi-ish kind of arena. And there was an enemy very much like Darth Vader that was like the
Main
what was he?
baddie.
The Games Master or something? I don't know. The Games Master might have been the head on the screen that presented the show.
Yeah.
But anyway, this guy comes and like is the villain of the show.
Right.
But yeah, they had this terrible VR headset where they would direct them while they were in VR,
Yeah.
basically, and be like, okay, 2 steps right, 2 steps left.
Stop, that's it, now. Right. Stop, right, backwards.
And
Wow.
it was an interesting game show. It was actually quite fun to watch. But like there were so many things back then where they tried to engage people.
Sure.
And like you must have had teletext here in Finland as well. Like the TV kind of like
the
text.
The alternate
stuff.
mode of the TV. Yeah,
It's still
TV.
there, I think.
It's still there. It shows the very simplified news and stuff for the very
it's just
old
like
folks.
a couple of 90-year-olds who are just still using teletext to book holidays.
Yeah, exactly. But think
I
about
remember people used to go on there for holiday deals.
That's right.
Look on teletext.
Yeah, it was the early form of internet, I feel like.
It was. Yeah.
So basically, this winded point I was trying to make is that like we've lived through so many phases of pop culture that it makes me dizzy. I thought about it last time yesterday, like how many different phases and eras of like technical achievements we've seen already.
And it gets quicker.
It gets so quick, yeah. And it's
Exponential,
we're getting slower.
basically.
We're getting,
yeah. Yeah, big time.
Yeah, it's like a crisscross graph of things. Another one goes down and another one goes sky high. But I've been lately trying to balance my attitude about this whole AI business that the youngsters are on about. But it's not all dark. Like
no,
I can imagine AI doing great things in some areas, like medicine, for example.
Already
it
is,
could
I think,
render, yeah.
There's a lot of benefits to it. I mean, it's
yes.
like any technology, right? Where this happens, it's
Yeah.
fresh. So everyone goes as fast as possible before people figure out what they have to regulate.
That's it.
So people are going to go
exactly.
as quick as they can while nobody can stop them.
Yes.
And then everyone realizes the potential benefits and the potential issues.
Yeah.
And then now, for example, like we have in the voice acting community, the acting community,
True,
the writing
yeah,
community, all of these communities of artists where
Yeah.
it's a threat.
Yeah.
But not if we control it properly.
Sure, and that's the natural first response of anything new and unknown. It's like first people get scared and reserved. Like it's always like that.
And it's because there are also the people who don't respect who they're affecting. So,
That's-
the
of course.
CEOs or
Yeah.
the executives who say certain things
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, well, we'll just scan them and then, we won't need them anymore.
That's true, and that's the first thing that the lawmakers now are scrambling to deal with. Like they are trying to find new ways to regulate, like how much you can scan of like how much can you actually expect to harvest before it becomes like a continuous expense you need to take care of. Like,
I mean, one thing, I haven't obviously used it or thought about it more in depth than this, but there was a company who spoke to me once about the idea of licensing my own AI voice IP.
Yeah.
So basically putting it in the power of the voice actors, which I think is a potentially good way of handling it. Because then if you own the IP of your AI package, so we say.
right,
that you own
part of your likeness is like a property you can still own.
You can license it.
Right.
So then if people use it and you can put regulations on it, you can say, you can use this to say anything except for anything related to this, and this.
Yeah.
And you can put the usage guidelines in. So I think you could find a way to package that in a safe manner for actors to still be able to use it.
Exactly.
Because it is exciting for things like, it's going to sound really lame to everyone, but things like fridges and stuff like that talk.
Yeah.
They can then say
example.
stuff in real time rather than you having to record
That's right.
100 million lines of every possible way that the fridge could say something.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever there's
Milk.
only
Sugar, bread.
and you can also get rid of the age-old problem that some of the classic games that have like an announcement system make fun of. Like whenever the samples don't match the
Exactly.
intonation. Yeah, exactly.
Not attempt to open the doors until the train has come to a complete halt at the station platform. Now arriving at
Finnish is a language that kind of lends itself well into that like automated vocal
Well, it's
work.
almost robotic the way
Because-
some people speak.
Yes, we almost are like unemotional people at first.
Junat Rautatien torille lähtevät raiteelta 3, Vuosaareen raiteelta 1. Ovet suljetaan. Olkaa hyvä ja poistukaa ovien välistä.
But in like trains and airplanes and whatnot, there's like this warning, there's gonna be a deer. I don't know why there would be a deer up in the sky.
I'm loving where this is going. There's a deer on the wing.
yeah. That's the classic Twilight Zone.
Exactly.
story.
It's not a clown anymore. It's a deer.
It's a deer. Oh my God! Wasn't William Shatner as well in the original black and white episode of the show?
I think he was.
Oh my God!
There appears to be
demon.
a deer on the flame.
I don't understand. Pause is important.
Gremlins. Don't look. He's not there now. He jumps away whenever anyone might see him. He's pulling up one of the cowling plates.
There's that clip of him as well where there's like an awkward interaction with him and a fairly fresh director.
There is, and it's
like
real.
One of those ones where, I don't know, I'm half and half on who's in the wrong.
That's right.
Because he gets a bit, and I've been in a situation where recording in the booth and someone's a bit over
directive.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And they don't let you finish like a paragraph before they're already directing or something.
Sure, yeah.
And they're like interrupting a word here and there. And you're like, okay,
Right,
maybe
right.
we do a fresh read and then you actually,
Yeah.
hear it all in one go first. But yeah, like he has this awkward interaction where he's like, why don't you just read it? You just tell me how you want me to read it and I'll read it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And he starts to sound really like passive aggressive as well.
But to be honest, at the same time,
why don't you read it?
Pissed, but he's not like being super rude about it.
That's true. Yeah,
He just kind of gets a bit like, do you know what? Fine, you just tell me and I'll do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. But he's like
Frustrated.
Yes.
So I'm going to do it the way you read it.
Oh, but I don't want you to do it.
But you're telling me how you want me to do it.
Well, I'm sorry.
No. I am going to do it your way. No, there's no apology necessary. You know what you want.
A very dear friend of mine in game audio uses the phrase like, I'm old enough to. I think William Shatner is old enough to actually do that and get away with it cleanly because he's basically giving the guy a pretty good lesson as well.
Yes.
I'm sure he'll try a different approach next time.
But also, you do get older and give less shits.
Yeah.
I assume we're swearing on this podcast, by the way. We seem to both have quite a few times now, so I don't know whether you want to put beeps in.
I forgot.
Or if you're going to edit all of these out.
I forgot about the goddamn swearing.
Did you order the code red?
I did the job. Did you order the code red? You're goddamn right I did.
I mean, I think it'd be funnier with bleeps. And then you could put some bleeps over words that don't need them just to make it sound
Exactly.
Yeah.
Make us really evil and harsh.
Yeah, exactly.
What are we supposed to use then? Harsh language? Remember? Frost in Aliens.
Fucking crazy.
What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
Flame units only.
So Ripley, just wanted to say that she was the first like badass leading lady that I ever saw. And that was when I was, because the film's 1979. Right.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah,
and it's the first Alien. And then I saw that when I was like 5. Thanks, Dad. But it was cool though.
It's so
but
cool.
even from the beginning, I remember thinking everyone was stupid but her. Because even at the start, she's like, "Don't bring him in. It's quarantine. We don't know what that is."
Yeah.
And then they force her. Well, of course, the android, obviously lets her in.
Yeah, it's so good, so well written as well. Like it's borderline believable how it goes.
What's the actor's name again? Bilbo Baggins. What's his name?
Ian Holm.
That's
Ian
the
Holm.
one. Yeah, he was
late Ian Holm.
fantastic in Aliens.
He's absolutely great. And
so good.
The way Ridley Scott as well talks about how he approached the idea of the synthetic person going crazy. Like even he injected these weirdly erotic tones in the scene as well. That's so
because he's like
up.
he's like this messed up android. He's sort of getting this sadistic pleasure from it.
Exactly. Yeah. And another anecdote about a later classic you mentioned, Terminator 2, is I didn't realize this before, but nowadays, since I'm a member of this Facebook group, Terminator 2 fans, one thing that I learned from that group, from another viewpoint of fandom, is that the T-1000 actually gets a bit sadistic in the film.
Call to John. I know this hurts. Call John.
Oh, the T1000 does.
T1000.
Yes. Sorry, in my head I'm like T800, but yes, T1000. Yes, he does. Yeah, he gets like really kind of creepy.
I have a sadism subroutine.
This is our safe word.
Hey man, who taught you to be sadistic? You did. In 35 years from now.
Don't worry, he'll live.
He'll live. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
I swear I will not kill anyone.
All right, let's go.
I did. Yes. What's the problem?
He'll live.
Yeah. Arnie, the great Arnie, was the first guy I remember trying to do an impression of in elementary school.
He's not today, but he's my best impression on a good day.
You're pretty good. You're pretty good at it. Yeah.
When I'm in the zone.
Yeah. Yep. It's also fantastic. Don't take this the wrong way, but I remember one of your earliest TikToks where this long hair, your long dark curly hair, and sunglasses appear, and this super clean Arnie impression comes in from the mouth.
Hi, it's been a while, right? Thought I'd update you and let you know that Finnish Arnold will be back. Do not worry.
It was such a mismatch.
Such a juxtaposition, isn't it?
It's a fantastic mismatch. Yeah.
I think that's why I love doing the impression as well, because people see me and then they hear it and go, no,
they don't expect that.
No.
It's deep. It's rich.
Of course.
Oh my God.
Right here.
You have a warmer tone than me. I have a more nasally thing going on, I think.
It depends. When I go into my natural kind of speaking range is here, I guess. And I'm originally from Essex. So it used to be an octave higher. So it used to be like more up here. Right. I don't know why it's like Essex might okay now, but like it's not quite the Essex accent.
And the only way I could speak is...
And I said, am I bothered? But
I'm not sure you recorded this episode loud enough.
But the range of the voices is quite difficult because Arnie is surprisingly low, and there's Joe Gaudet, as you know, does like a fantastic Arnold from the 90s.
That's true.
I feel like I do a better later Arnold than I do like an earlier Arnold. Or maybe like when he's in Nobody Speaks to Hercules, you know, like he's kind of like, he does this weird like
young middle-aged
Hercules.
Yeah.
Like,
hey man, where are you going?
Sure. Yeah, come back here. Like he's much higher and just kind of a bit more like, like in the stereotype, right? Because they dubbed him originally with this awful, like, generic American voice.
I've never seen that version. I've never seen the film all the way. I've only seen snippets from YouTube where Arnie's original voice is, and it's so messed up.
I've only seen the movie with his original voice. I've never seen the dubbing version. Because they re-released it when he was famous, right?
Right.
They're like, okay, well, we'll put the original dub back.
Yeah. Come on, you gotta respect me. Come on.
Don't push Hercules. And then the scenes in scenes from Mount Olympus, you can hear traffic.
He talks with Zeus.
You can hear traffic in the background. They're recording in the park.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like, where is Zeus? And it's like,
yeah, and then he goes like, he whines about, I'm tired of the same old faces, the same old things.
Yes.
I have been here thousands of years. I am bored. I am tired of the same old faces. The same old things.
So good.
Why don't I hear that stuff in like God of War?
I know, right? That would have been amazing.
I would love to have like a cameo of Arnie's Hercules in some video game, like
completely out of place.
Yeah, completely out of nowhere in a closet somewhere.
Well, speaking of video game
there's
voices,
always a guy in there
and being a little bit out of place. Like so,
yes.
You know. And just to be clear, I love the voice actors of this game.
Right.
It's Final Fantasy 16. And
oh yeah,
it's
I haven't played that one.
The acting is fantastic.
Yeah,
but sometimes it is hilarious because I mean, as a Brit,
I think it's the Japanese origin directing as well. Like
possibly, yes.
It's a mismatch of cultures a little bit.
They love the kind of weird mix, right? They'll have like serious fantasy over the top, and then the next minute have a bit of comedy, which is nice.
Exactly.
And then weirdly go a bit dark or light, however they feel.
Yes.
But it's always and it's a little bit anime style.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely.
But as an English bloke who play this, I'm sure it's the same for most English people, when the main character rocks up and his name is Clive, you're just sort of like, okay, it's a bit weird. Clive. It's just like somebody's uncle.
It
like,
sounds
Uncle
really
Clive.
weird. Like
Clive's coming round, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
Who else is coming? Oh,
what is thy name, brave knight? Clive.
And I'm Nigel. Like, it's just, it's a bit odd. And then you meet Gav, this guy who's like a Geordie. I think he's meant to be Geordie.
Gav.
It's an interesting accent. I think it's his natural voice. Just when I first heard it, it was a bit weird because he's like, "Hiya, I'm Gav." And it's just, I don't know, it's a bit odd for me. The guy who plays Sid is fantastic and he has a very deep Yorkshire accent. I think he's from Leeds originally.
Yeah.
And that's the mismatch I was going to lead up to because he has this aged look, but in the way that he's very pretty boy anime, short haircut, stubble.
Yeah.
And then his voice is like right down here and he talks like that. And you're like, "Hey up, Clive. Steady on." And it's just like, it doesn't match his face for me. He looks too...
Sounds like a character from a Guy Ritchie gangster film.
Yeah,
like
just a bit like, "Easy, Clive." Like, well, God, all right.
Oh my God.
And his face looks so young and youthful, like he wouldn't talk like that to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it, works after a while.
As I was telling Jill, it's worse than I thought. The capital's crawling with soldiers.
And here I am, the deserter come home.
Which is why we'll be taking the back door.
But it's also the fact that that game lets you just kind of randomly attack chocobos or chocobos. I think they're actually pronounced, but I prefer chocobos.
Right.
But they don't attack you. They attack you if you attack them. So they're innocent, right? And
that's right.
You have this power called icons, which are basically the summons from Final Fantasy.
All right, yeah.
So like the spirits and the
always
gods.
There.
And you have the abilities of them. What baffles me is that you go hell for leather on these chocobos using insane magic and gods to destroy them. I just imagine your companions staring at you very confused about what's going on. We're supposed to be stopping the Empire.
Why are you punishing these yellow birds?
And the summary is you need a new bit of clothing, because you want their bloody hides to get a belt or something.
That's the dark side of any game that forces you to gather resources from animals. Like,
yes,
you remember
Far Cry was really brutal for
Far
that.
Cry was super evil in that sense. And Tomb Raider from 2013, the reboot, that was
the era where everyone loved crafting and upgrades.
Crafting and grinding like that.
Yes.
Absolutely. Every game had to do that. And
Still
maps
kind of does, but
yeah, for sure. It's a long-standing trend. The reboot of Tomb Raider was weird in that way because it tried, at first the game tried to make the killing feel bad for the player.
Yes.
Different than Uncharted, even though it had
was a lot.
Even though it was like 1,000 animals later, like I don't mind killing
but
these.
But also you have this. So instead of having badass Lara like you had in the original Tomb Raiders, where she was just like, "Oh, whatever, darling," and then moved on.
Right.
She was just like a cool, chic.
It was a mixture of James Bond and Indiana Jones in female.
Pretty much, yeah.
Shell.
It was basically James Bond, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then in the remake, the first one I didn't mind in the reboot because the idea was that it was the beginning of her journey.
Right.
But she was a bit up herself. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I just remember the campsite conversations and one of them really annoying me because she was like, "My body is telling me to lie down, but I must not give up." And I was just like, "Oh my God, you really enunciated that." Like I know that she's RP and what, but oh no, God. I must not give up.
Yeah.
Oh God, right.
And it's also so weird because a few years ago there was Uncharted 2, 2009, I think, even though I played it later on PS4. But Uncharted nailed the humor and the action. It's like a summer movie.
Oh, with the train.
Yeah. Oh. The game opening that J.J. Abrams praises. That's the one.
And then Nolan, he wakes up and he's like, it's a lot of blood. It's a lot of my blood.
That's a lot. Yeah, exactly. And then the camera starts moving and oh shit.
That's my blood. That's my blood. It's a lot of my blood.
So good.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But it was more the way the rest of the reboots went that disappointed me more with Tomb Raider. I think. Because not Shadow, that's the third one.
Rise was the middle one.
Rise was the middle one.
Siberia.
That was interesting. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider does this thing that's meant to be really nice, but actually makes Lara look like a massive dick.
Yes.
Because they have the option to turn on everyone speaks their local language.
Oh, true.
But then Lara doesn't.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Just speaks very plain English to them and sounds like my mum on holiday.
It's like C-3PO talking to R2-D2 and everybody just doesn't understand. Yeah, it's so silly because
she's obviously the conversations play out, but it sounds like an English person on holiday at first because they're like,
where is the airport?
And she just smashes their stuff.
Yeah.
Like she's like, there's a mural hidden underneath all this layer of archaeological historic content. Yes.
Excuse me, do you mind if I... Yeah.
I'm just going to smash up and steal from your library. Hope you don't mind.
Yes. In the old games, it was like justified somehow because usually the places were deserted or destroyed already, and she's called Tomb Raider.
Yeah,
but she didn't like attack people's homes.
Also, the whole plot of Shadow really baffles me. Where she's like, he's going to take the dagger and start the end of the world. So then she takes the dagger and starts the end of the world. I don't really understand what the whole point was there.
Well, Sam, dear Sam, the point is the Judgment Day is inevitable.
Okay.
Inedible.
So it might as well be me, is what she's saying.
Yes. It might as well.
Might as well be me.
You know, yeah.
And then they go to this lost city that has not been interfered with by man, and they all speak English perfectly.
That's right.
And they have their own savior who has been bred and groomed since birth to be the savior of the planet.
Yeah.
And resist the powers of the box. And then she gets killed. So she says to Lara, you're going to have to do it. You're going to have to resist. This whole lifetime I have trained to resist this box. You are somehow just going to be able to resist it because you're amazing all the time. I mean, no shade on whoever worked on that game because making games is hard, right? We know this.
Yeah, for sure.
And, not everyone has all the power over all the choices. So
yes.
I do want to put out that as a caveat, but some games do end up kind of ending up with some things that you question quite heavily.
For sure, yeah. And storytelling in games is a very different beast from linear media.
It's very difficult.
Yeah,
it's very,
exactly.
very difficult.
Imagine that. Like I studied film directing for a couple of years at first, and I couldn't bring myself to continue. It was even handling a short movie felt overwhelming because I realized I'm in charge of pretty much everything, at least artistically.
Yeah.
And it felt pretty overwhelming and a little too much. And when it goes to video games, it's like 10 times more challenging to get your vision through.
And same as films. I think if you want to be a good director, you should understand at least some knowledge of every part of the process.
Exactly.
Because otherwise, how can you then play your part?
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to be a quote marks storyteller and also not to be a dick at the same time because the classic movies sometimes there is this romantic image of an author-director. The sad truth is that most authors in history have been very difficult to work with as well.
And that's kind of the nature of the beast, I think, sometimes. It
is.
Thankfully, we're moving towards a more kind of progressive way of working where, people feel safe at work, which is good.
Yes.
But there was a lot of the kind of true geniuses, and this goes even to games with people like Shinji Mikami. I love Resident Evil, and he is known as the father of Resident Evil for good reason, with the way he worked on Resi 1, and in some way
he made
Resi 2.
horror games massive in the 90s, basically. He exploded. Yeah.
People hated working with him. There was the point on Resident Evil 1, I believe, where he basically went, we're going back to the drawing board, and everyone lost it. They were going to go and get him kicked off the project, but he got the backup of the producer, I think. I believe it was the producer there. He basically got people on his side to believe in him.
Yeah.
But they were going to kick him off because all the programs were pissed. They were like, are you kidding? We've spent all this time making this game and you want to start from scratch.
Yeah.
But
Bulldozed.
then at the end of the day, it worked.
Yeah.
And it's the same when you have visionaries like Michael Jordan and people like that.
Yes. Stanley Kubrick was sometimes very difficult, and Ingmar Bergman famously, he pulled and pushed actors from their clothes to get them into right positions, and all sorts of weird and not appropriate stuff has been going on for sure.
And I'm not saying it's so the Shinji Mikami situation, for example, which is restarting a project and creating a lot of work for everyone.
Yeah,
you can still do that within a good space of working, but
you can. Yeah.
I'm also saying that, with people like Michael Jordan who say things like, I didn't want to be liked, I wanted to win.
Yeah.
And if you have that drive and if you want to take people to that goal and they want that goal, then you're going to have that kind of clash when people are kind of trying to lead the team.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can't imagine the stress they're under as well, especially these days. And even then, he was under a lot of pressure from Capcom.
Yeah, for sure.
To kind of deliver something. And, publishers are there kind of being like,
lots of money and reputation like hanging on the balance and you have to meet deadlines and whatnot. I've
read some crazy kind of like stories recently. There's an old book that I'm very late to the game on called Blood, Sweat and Pixels by Jason Schreier.
I should read that.
You really should. I'll lend it to you when I'm done.
Excellent.
It's got dev stories of things like Diablo 3, Pillars of Eternity, Stardew Valley.
Right, like pretty fresh stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Uncharted 4.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's got some really good kind of interviews with people on the team.
Right.
And one of the most interesting ones was the Halo Wars story, which is a surprising one, really. Because the company, and I'm going to get the name wrong now because I've forgotten it, but the company who made Halo Wars were... the first ones were basically the same company who made Age of Empires 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, yeah.
So was that Ender Realm or Ender something or Ether Realm, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, there's no way of checking.
Well, if you Google Age of Empires 1, 2, 3 and Halo Wars, it's them. But anyway, the whole thing was that they started off by making a point-and-click adventure for console. That's what their main mission was.
Yes.
But then it was Microsoft who, first of all, said, yes, love the idea. And then once they'd come up with all their own lore and everything, then went, yes, but you're going to have to make it about Halo because no one's going to buy a game that is unknown IP and blah, blah, blah. So we have to make it Halo.
Oh my God.
And so they were like, what the hell? But they reworked it. They got on board and were like, Halo's a pretty cool lore, actually. Maybe we can do something interesting here.
Yeah.
But they had such a weird interaction with Bungie because Bungie at first were not really aware of this.
Yeah.
And then when they weren't exactly very happy about another studio working with their kind of baby
naturally,
in a way. Even though Microsoft owns the IP.
Yeah.
Obviously Bungie is Halo.
Exactly.
So, I mean, and then the whole thing ended with the company going bust.
Yeah.
And closing down afterwards. And people staying for 4 months to crunch and finish Halo Wars.
Yeah.
And then have to find a job.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild how that happened.
Exactly. And it's also shows the kind of a dark side of our industry, which is that we don't get this kind of funding system that the film industry has had for like over 100 years or almost. Like this is really like uneven kind of uneven waters we're sailing on.
But the last thing I'll say on the games kind of topic was that I read something kind of scary the other week. A few people have shared about it, but like it's something, quite a high percentage of games history is practically lost in the form of it's not available on current platforms.
Yeah, that's
so it's
true.
like 80 or 85% of gaming history, if you include everything that's not playable or obtainable now.
I've heard it
lost
recently.
That's crazy.
It is.
And it's such a vital part of our history.
It is.
That if all the SNESes break and stop working and all the cartridges have batteries in them, they have lifetimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So if all of them just die out, and we haven't got the backups, we have emulators, but that's not the same.
It's never the same, yeah.
I mean, I'm also just doing this to personally preach that please, for the love of God, make Resident Evil 2 on PS1 playable, please. I've been wanting to play Resident Evil 2
the original
on like current platforms for years. The closest I can get is my Vita.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm the other person who owns a Vita. But
wow.
But I only got it to play PS1 classics.
Yeah.
That's what I bought it for.
Yeah. The slightly clunky polygon shapes of Leon S. Kennedy.
But Resident Evil 1 Director's Cut is on PS5.
Oh,
so why can't I have Resi 2 and Resi 3? And then we've got
horrible
all of them.
soundtrack. Oh my God.
Oh, the Director's Cut Basement is the worst track known to man. Where someone's literally just throwing dead bodies on a piano.
Yeah, in random order, random timing.
Yeah. It's literally like a cat walking on a keyboard or something. Even that would be better.
even that would be. What's the freaking trumpet sample as well? Like compared to what Resident Evil 2, it has a great score. The original. I mean, it's so exciting.
This is where, like, again, I'm a super nerd, and I read that book that I was going to lend you about the history of Resident Evil.
That's right.
It's so good. And Resi 2, basically, Shinji Mikami trusted the producer from Resi 1, I think it was, to handle Resi 2.
Oh, yeah.
And he even admitted, I will say this, he even said at one point, we're disagreeing so much, but you're the director, I'm going to be hands off and let you do your thing.
Okay.
So Shinji recognized he was being a little bit too invested.
Right.
But anyway, the second game, and I think it's another reason why it plays very close to my heart.
Right.
So Terminator 2 is my favorite movie of all time. I obviously love action.
It's
love
a good choice.
Arnie, love all these things, right?
Yes.
And then Resident Evil 2 was where they were like, right, we're going to go a little bit more action movie now.
Yes.
And they based it around a lot of things. Like they had a lot of influences from Jaws, Die Hard,
for sure,
Terminator.
Like a big truck.
Oh,
it's
yes.
so Terminator.
Yes.
Like the way it
almost
crashes.
Like the same scene, right? Like it's,
exactly.
With the fire at the beginning. It's obviously a Terminator homage.
It is.
And Mr. X is basically a Terminator.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Here, use this. Ada, is that you? Ada!
Good times, that game. Like I
love it so much.
In some ways, I kind of like the original Resi 1, no director's cut. I mean, I personally love the mansion setting just a tad more than the city. I feel the confined space of the first game really adds something to the isolation. Exactly.
Yeah, it really adds a lot.
It's also I smile at that, even though it's a great game mechanic. But in some ways, the puzzles, the art puzzles in a police station in the second game, they feel a tad
make less
silly.
sense. Yeah, I mean they're already silly in one, right?
Exactly.
Like, oh, where is the eagle medallion? Oh, I put it in a book in the library on the second floor. Like, oh, god damn it, I've got to get back in the
Imagine
lab.
the thick instruction book for any employee working with umbrella in the mansion.
Yeah,
having to read this.
Going to the basement,
shit
and you're
up?
like, oh shit, I left one of the chess pieces behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Got 5, I don't have 6.
Yeah, but to be fair, like what they nailed, in my opinion, in the second game, it was one of the first times I remember playing 2 characters during the same period of time, and they even wrote it really smartly that they
so good.
overlap
The
just the right way.
Is what they called it.
Yeah,
and it's so good.
It's so good.
And with scenario A and B, it works.
And you can change them backwards as well. Like you can start with Leon, you can start with Claire.
Exactly.
And
if
swap
you
the
do
stories.
Leon A, Claire B, or if you do
That
Claire
was so
A
good.
and Leon B, it still works amazingly.
It's brilliant replayability in a way. Yeah.
Replayability, I found, is one of my key ticks for loving a video game, which means that it's very difficult in modern gaming because they don't really go for the replayability so much. The Resis still do, which is why I still love them.
Yeah.
But, bigger games like FF16, it's like you do a 70-hour game and then it's like, play it all again on hard. And I'm like,
I don't
quite
think
long.
I'm gonna.
Like,
I know exactly what you mean.
I've played over 140 hours of the new Resident Evil 4. But it doesn't feel like 140 hours.
Yeah.
It's just been so many different playthroughs. It's almost a roguelike at that point with all the upgrades.
Oh my God, you're such a hardcore
Man, I
hardcore player.
This is how bad I am. I platinumed it on PS5.
Yeah.
So I've downloaded the PS4 version and started again, and I'm going to platinum that.
I imagine it doesn't even look that much worse on PS4.
No,
like,
looks very similar. There's a
fine.
couple of things that I noticed where it's like the animations of zombies in the distance.
Oh yeah,
They're
they
a
have
bit
to
jittery.
downscale it a little bit.
But that was
yeah.
already the case in the PS5 version of the remake of 3.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of do this like
that's really
stuttery
junky.
thing in the
Yeah,
distance.
that looks really awful in some ways. But Resident Evil 4 is a great. We are kind of living in an era. We're overusing that word, by the way.
Yes.
But we're living in an age.
We're living in an age.
Yes, exactly. Age of not empires, but age of remakes. But I'd say game remakes tend to be much better than movie remakes.
Yes.
These days.
I would agree. And it also leads me back into what I was going to say before, which to me, the best video game remake of all time is Resident Evil 1 on the GameCube.
Oh, yeah. That's
which has
such
been
a
ported
brilliant
to modern
remake.
consoles. It's the best because it keeps the spirit. It adds some really cool additional stuff.
It keeps the mechanics as well.
And it keeps
it's really
the mechanics,
faithful.
which are a core part.
Yeah.
And like there's certain things where I think I love the modern remakes of Resi 2, 3, and 4. I mean, remake of 3, I wouldn't say I love it.
Yes, I
do
agree.
enjoy lot of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say something bad if I keep going. But anyway, I'm slightly disappointed in the modern remakes in a way because they're amazing games.
Right.
They're so well made. But there are certain elements of the original Resi versions that I just really miss. And
there's some magic in them, for sure.
Much.
There's also magic in the imperfect mechanics, how they worked. The panic you felt as Jill Valentine when Nemesis in the original Resident Evil 3 came. The tank controls worked for the atmosphere of the game. They were infuriating at times, but in Silent Hill as well, when you played as a clunky Harry Mason. Mason was the character.
The whole point was he was bad at attacking.
He was bad at fighting. Yes, exactly. And the tank controls, they had some magic that the modern games, with the requirement of being responsive and agile and stuff, and you have to write your characters to be super soldiers almost all the time. And to me, it feels like there's something lost in the imperfect controls that the old times had.
What I will say is that they did pay homage to it really well in the Resi 2 and 3 remakes because they intentionally left stuff out that wasn't in that was also not in the original.
Oh yeah,
so
they did some smart choices.
Dodge, for example.
Yes.
Because it was all designed around the corridors and everything else. But 3, they gave more space because they added the dodge in, same as in the original.
Yeah, for sure.
And the dodge works way better in the remake than the original. That was janky as hell.
That's true.
But they did, they did my boy Nemesis pretty bon.
Yeah.
They did it bad because he's meant to be this imposing thing that Mr. X was in the 2 remake.
Exactly.
But I think they overdid it with Mr. X, and you can tell that both games are made separately at the same time by different teams.
Yeah.
And Nemesis was so scripted and, I don't know, oppressive and less scary, to be honest, especially in his bin bags at the beginning. What was that about? Like, he's just covered in bin bags and tape.
Why?
And he shows up straight away. And I'm not going to begin this TED Talk because I'm going to end up trashing Resi 3 for the next 20 minutes. But
I'm Sam Hughes.
If you want to come to my TED Talk on the good and bad of Resident Evil.
TED. Sorry, an age-old comedy reference from the 90s.
Hello, Ted.
Hello, sir.
Cold this morning?
Well, I've never felt the cold myself.
Ralph.
I'm sorry, sir.
Ralph.
Sir?
We... to draw some conclusions.
just leave.
Bye.
The Bilbo Baggins moment where he's like, It's been wonderful. I must leave now. Just gone. So
no pressure.
We're saying goodbye and thanks for listening to
Nonsensical Revelations.
We'll be back next time. Same bad time, same bad... So thank you for listening. And in talking about thank yous, we have to do a bit of a shout out to Finvox for letting us use their space to record this episode.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much, Finvox.
Thank you, lovely people.
I don't want to get too cheesy, but I would also like to thank Toivo for arranging this and suggesting this as an idea after many chats, and for the wonderful conversations over the years. So now I get wistful and
dude.
Nostalgic. Is there anything else you want to say, Toivo, before you?
I'd like to thank Mom and Dad
and God.
every magic trick and God. Thank God we're finished with the episode. All right.
Now listen, it's your birthday, and not a lot of people know that. So here's your card, and remember, you're only supposed to blow the candles out.
That sounds really good to me.
Thank y'all.
Catch you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello? I'm Sam Hughes VO on all social media. I said I'm Sam Hughes VO on all social media, and I'd like to confess.
Shut up!
All right, this is your captain speaking. Toivo, that is. I would just like to let you guys know before we land that I can be found on the socials as Toistinen on Instagram. That's TOISTINEN. And I will be representing my own name, Toivo Kallio, on LinkedIn. On YouTube, you can search for Toivo Kallio. There will be something there. Not much. Something. Enjoy. I hope you have a lovely day, wherever you are, whenever you are. See you later. Bye.